The Champions League semi-finals is living up to the hype and then some. You have 4 teams who are all dreaming of the same Champions League dream in Munich. And yesterday alone, we saw one of the greatest semi-finals probably in recent history. So let's break it down. We're going to break down Inter Milan versus Barcelona and of course Arsenal versus PSG. But first stop, Barcelona. For the Champions League semi-final, when Inter Milan came to Barcelona, all I can say is there was absolute chaos in Catalonia. In this semi-final, there were 6 goals, each team sharing 3. Bear in mind, these are 2 of Europe's powerhouses, European elite clubs that are fighting for their spot in the final in Munich in a couple weeks time. And with that, Marcus Thuram scored the quickest goal in Champions League semi-final history. Only 30 seconds in the game and he made it 1-0 to Inter. And then not only that, but then Denzel Dumfries produced a moment of magic with an overhead kick to make it 2-0 to Inter Milan in Barcelona's home stadium. Now mind you, they weren't actually in the Camp Nou, they were in a different stadium because of construction and whatnot, but still, it's in Barcelona's backyard. And when everything was looking doomy and gloomy for Barcelona, of course, who else but Lamine Yamal to step up and make it 2-1 and start the remontada for Barcelona. Sorry, remontada has been the word of like the month for this Champions League season at least. But of course, when Barcelona needed a goal, when Barcelona needed some inspiration, up stepped Lamine Yamal, 17 years of age, danced past several defenders before curling it into the far post and making it 2-1. And later on in the half, a ball across the goal found Ferran Torres, who had an easy tap in to make it 2-2 and level things in the first half. 4 goals in the first half of the Champions League semi-final. Wow. And in the second half, Denzel Dumfries again from a corner, again made it 3-2 to Inter Milan before Rafinha's moment of magic from Barcelona's corner. Volley, not even a volley, I'd say first time strike from outside the box, absolutely crashing the crossbar, hitting someone on the head and making it 3-3. And this game was absolutely phenomenal. Like if you didn't watch it, I guarantee you guys, you can even pause this video and go and watch the highlights because it was absolutely amazing. Now, did anyone kind of predict the game going that way? Absolutely not. Because Inter Milan, we all know this season, and especially in the Champions League, they've been defensively stubborn. Like they don't let up goals, let alone that many chances in a single game. Now, a common theme with Barcelona this season and Hansi Flick's team is the fact that they play such a high line, they catch the opposition offside time and time again. And that is exactly what happened when Inter Milan thought they got the winner with Mkhitaryan's 4th goal, but it got ruled off to a very close offside call. Like honestly, if he was like a size 9 instead of a size 10, he probably would have been onside. One more thing I want to mention on that game is that Lamine Yamal is somehow only 17 years old. As of this moment right now, I'm going to stop calling Lamine Yamal 17 years old. I'm going to stop referring to him as a 17-year-old wonder kid. That boy is world class. That boy is world class because what he's doing on the pitch, not only in terms of, okay, yes, you can say, yes, he's getting goals and he's getting assists, which is fantastic and it's very good and sensational, the amount of goals and assists he's getting for a 17-year-old. However, the way he's playing, no, sorry. I think grown men even dream to do some of the things that he's doing right now on the pitch at 17 years old. And I'm talking about wingers that are 26, 27, even potentially getting in their 30s, aren't performing to the level that he is at this age. It's absolutely crazy. Like, yes, not only was his goal fantastic, but then also there was a moment in the game where he made an interception, did a roulette, dropped the shoulder, he got past like 3 players and Barcelona won the attack. And I was literally sat there like this. I was sat there like this and I said, this boy is sensational. Now I know there might be a lot of like, people say hype around Yamal because he won the Euros at 16 and then he just won the Copa del Rey with Barcelona, but he's absolutely sensational. Like, yeah, he's a baller's baller and I think his ceiling, like, then he doesn't even have a ceiling. The heights that this kid can go to is absolutely incredible. However, next week, Barcelona will be going to Milan and they'll be going to the San Siro to play Inter Milan. And I can't lie to you, it is going to be a tough ask to kind of replicate the same free-flowing attacking play in Milan with the Nerazzurri fans chanting and all that type of stuff. The San Siro is a very daunting stadium. It's not like Inter Milan were playing at the famous Camp Nou. They weren't. Yes, they were in Barcelona's backyard, but they weren't at Camp Nou. So I guess the atmosphere might be a little bit different. I'm not too sure on that. But next week, if it's anything like this week's semi-final, then we're in for an absolute treat. We're in for an absolute treat of football. Me personally, I've been kind of refraining from making predictions on the semi-finals, mainly because it's the semi-finals. When it gets to this stage and the final, anything can happen. Legit, anything can happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Inter are very, to be fair with you, I wouldn't be surprised if it went to penalties. I wouldn't be surprised if it presents another 2-2 type of game and then it goes to penalties and then it's a shootout. And then it's just, you know, flip of the coin, whichever side of luck you are on the balance scale. If God favors Inter or Barcelona, honestly, anything can happen. I think it will go to penalties though. but I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, Inter outright won. I would be very surprised though if Barcelona beat Inter Milan in their own stadium, because that stadium for them this season has been a fortress. This was Champions League about 5-6 years ago. Inter Milan would be having the advantage because even though they drew, they scored 3 away goals. And I feel like Champions League should bring away goals back, because it makes teams, yes, want to score, but you also don't want to concede. But that's something for another time. But like I mentioned, Barcelona might have the momentum and they might have the, the youthful fire to drive them forward. But Inter are very stubborn, and it is going to be a tactical battle. It's going to be potentially a tactical masterclass on the pitch. So we're going to have to see. San Siro next week might be a hell of a tie. And now on to Arsenal versus PSG. Now this game was a whole lot tighter, and I guess you'd say it is a complete opposite to the game that we saw yesterday with Inter Milan and Barcelona. Most notably, there were 6 goals in the Inter Milan and Barcelona game. With the PSG and Arsenal one, there was only 1. Now the first leg was played at the Emirates, and PSG absolutely outplayed Arsenal in every metric in the game. In terms of their fans, the noise was so much louder. In terms of possession, they dominated the ball and made it hard for Arsenal to actually get a foothold in the game. Well, at least in the first half. Defensively, they were stubborn, and I guess just on the day as well, Donnarumma just had a fantastic game. And number 4, attacking, going forward, they were sensational. Dembele bombing forward, Doué and Kvaratskhelia doing what Doué and Kvaratskhelia do. And then even when Barcola came on, had a chance to make it 2-0 to Parisians, but he missed the goal. And unfortunately for them, they only have a 1 goal advantage to take back with them to Paris in the second leg next week. But there were moments in the game where Arsenal did look dangerous, and Arsenal did look like they were going to cause some damage to PSG. Shortly after the second half started, Mikel Merino actually scored from a free kick, but VAR ruled it offside. And to be fair with you, it was a very, very marginal offside. Gabriel Martinelli had a very good one-on-one chance that was saved by Donnarumma, and a lot of people said that, oh, Martinelli should have done so much better. But I think people need to look at that goal again and realize that Donnarumma actually made a very good save. He's massive, he made the goal look smaller, and he basically forced Martinelli to go to the far post because the front post was completely locked off, and Donnarumma's massive. Yeah, that just his wave is what do you call it? His wingspan is absolutely incredible. And the funny thing is that despite only losing 1-0, everyone online made it seem as if Arsenal lost 4-0. I even went on TikTok live after the game, and I was saying that honestly, yes, Arsenal did not play well, but it's only 1-0. Like, we've seen bigger scorelines get overturned in second legs many years in a row in the Champions League. And like I said, it's a semi-final. Anything can happen. However, the one thing I will say, and the one thing I'm going to touch on in a little bit of depth, mainly because I've seen a lot of confusion about this online, especially when it came to Instagram, TikTok, all that type of stuff. Declan Rice was at fault for the first goal. 100%. I hear people say that Marino should have potentially come over. I think even Daniel Sturridge, when he was on analysis, said that, oh, Marino should have, covered Dembele if Rice going to touch. No. Rice should have stayed with his man. If Rice stayed with his man, he doesn't get the ball. Dembele does not get the ball for that first time shot and make it 1-0. Simple as. There's no need for him to charge out like that. There's no reason for him to act so erratically, especially so early on in the game. But you know what I mean? It's the occasion. He's probably so amped up and so packed for the game that he's just kind of he's on knife's edge. He's a bit erratic, and it's very early on. This happened in the 3rd, maybe even the 4th minute of the game. However, next week is going to be a massive task if Arsenal are serious about getting into the Champions League final and serious about lifting the trophy with the big ears. What Arsenal need to do to overcome this PSG barrage and make sure that when they go to the Parc des Princes next week, they get the win, and they get the win to, I guess, put them in the Champions League final. They need to be 10 times better across the board. Defensively, first and foremost, I'm not going to lie, Timber and Lewis Skelly did have, they had a very tough ask defending against Kvaratskhelia and Dembele and Doué, because some of them were even switching wings. It was crazy. These are some of the best attackers in the world. So, of course, it will be a difficult ask, but they do need to be defensively more solid. That's not me saying that they were terrible, by the way. I'm just saying they need to do a better job defensively dealing with them. Saliba and Kivior. Now, again, Kivior's coming in for Gabriel, who's been injured. But Saliba, recently, has been making a few mistakes. A couple sloppy passes, kind of sleeping on the ball. He needs to get that out of his game completely if he wants to be serious about winning that Champions League trophy. Next Wednesday he's going to be back, and it's going to be a midfield, hopefully, of Rice, Odegaard and Partey. And you're going to understand what Partey does so much for the Arsenal midfield, the way he makes things tick, his defensive positioning, and just his ability to, I guess, thread passes through, transitioning from defense to attack, and just retaining possession. Like, it's something that is very underrated, and we saw that exposed on Tuesday when Rice tried to play that position. And yes, don't get me wrong, his ball carrying is great. He does do very good defensive actions, but going forward in terms of transitioning from, okay, we have the ball now, let's go and move it, progress it up the field, whether into one of our midfielders or putting it straight out to the wingers, he doesn't have the same quality that Thomas Partey does. It's evident and it's just facts. And then finally, up front, Saka had a bit of a mixed game, I guess, against PSG. Martinelli did give Hakimi a bit of a tough time, but ultimately it wasn't that much of a good game. I expect Trossard to completely come out of the team. I don't expect him to keep his position, definitely not as a number 9, and I don't think he'll start ahead of Martinelli on the left wing, which sees Merino go back up front. And like I said in like 2 of my other videos, Merino up front has been working for Arsenal, and it's what caused so much damage against Real Madrid. Merino was vital, the way he just, be that target man that we can aim for, whether it's the long goal kick, or whether it's switching the play and breaking it down. So I feel like if Arsenal are able to, I guess, tap into exactly what they were doing against Real Madrid and knowing that they have to be more tidy on the ball, we could see, I don't know, I don't want to say remontada, I might say revenir because we're in France, but I don't know, you might see a comeback. But PSG are a very good team. Keyword, team. Now, this PSG team for so long have been promised the Champions League trophy for the last almost 10 years. The big name signings, we're talking names such as like, Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva, Lavezzi, Cavani, David Luiz, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe. I can go on. For at least 10 years, PSG have been promised the Champions League. Yes, all this cash that we're spending, all these big money players, this is so we can win the Champions League. We don't care about the Ligue 1. We always win the Ligue 1, apart from maybe 1 year. But the Champions League, we need to win that. And I feel like this, again, they came very, very close. They came very, very close 1 year against Bayern Munich, eventually losing 1-0 to not only PSG graduate Kingsley Coman, being the difference that game, which I found was quite hilarious. But they have a very good chance. They already have 1 foot in Munich already with a 1-goal advantage. So the fans are going to be rocking, the players are going to be up for it, and it's going to be a very, very tough ask. And personally speaking, I think PSG have almost got their ticket ready. Like literally, they're there. They're just sorting out the boarding pass. They're just thinking about where they're going to sit on the plane, whether they're going to get the aisle, maybe the window seat. I don't know, but they're almost there. They're almost there in Munich. But the ask is simple. If Arsenal are very serious about winning this Champions League and very serious about making the final for the first time in almost 20 years, they're going to need to go to Paris and win. If PSG are serious about winning the Champions League for the first time in a venue in Munich where teams in the Champions League win their first Champions League trophy, they're going to not only need to be tidy in possession, but very, very stubborn defensively. I'm talking like Inter Milan level stubborn. Maybe not of yesterday, but like of early on in the season. But you get what I mean. So here's where we stand. Barcelona and Inter Milan, locked in, 3-3, stalemate. And Barcelona, next step, San Siro. PSG take a 1-0 lead back to Paris with them as they stun the Emirates Stadium. And Arsenal have a very, very tough away day ahead of them if they want to win the Champions League. But most importantly, who do you think is going to make it to the Champions League final? Will Barcelona, I guess, beat Inter Milan? Will Inter Milan be too much for Barcelona and overwhelm them to book their place in Munich? And most importantly, will PSG finally get to another Champions League final to lift the trophy? Or will Arsenal and Arteta surprise absolutely everyone and get a ticket instead? Who knows? You guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure you smash the like button. I'm trying to aim for 10 likes. And guys, make sure you subscribe to join MB United, where we talk everything football. And at least once a week, I give you a video as entertaining, as encapsulating, as whatever, as much as this. Kind of lost myself with that one. As always, I go on TikTok live after most Champions League games, especially next week. I would definitely be on TikTok live analysing either the Arsenal game or the Inter Milan game. Probably even both, to be fair with you. I'm going to be gassed for these games. And of course, we'll be back with another video just like this, analysing what the hell just happened in the Champions League semi-final. But until then, keep it real, and I'll see you when I see you in a bit.